Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. I am excited to be here with you guys today. I'm Morgan, the owner of Content on Draft, and today I'm going to be talking about engagement on social media. So just checking to see if anyone is live and tuning in yet. So while you all are joining, I want to give you a little bit of background on Content on Draft. So Content on Draft is a social media marketing company with a craft beer focus. I started the company in 2018 with my co-founder, Amy, right here in Buffalo, New York. And we actually expanded outside of New York State shortly after joining this craft beer professionals group back in 2020. Now I have worked with breweries in different states across the country, which is super cool because that means I have places to go when I travel, which I love. I think it's really cool to connect with people across social media in this industry. So I'm excited here today to talk to you about what I do real quick, which is specializing in creating custom strategies for craft breweries to engage their followers on Facebook and Instagram and then get them in the tap room. So in other words, my specialty is making money from social media. I do some day-to-day social media management for craft beer companies locally, and that's not fully my main focus. It's actually to give the people already working in your brewery the tools and training they need to maximize your accounts, to grow your social media right in-house. Because honestly, I've found that breweries know their beer, they know their people, but they sometimes struggle to get those potential customers online and into the tap room. So that being said, I'm going to talk about a really important piece of that puzzle today, which is engagement. And before I get into engagement, I'm going to ask you for some engagement because one, it's relevant to the topic, and two, because I want to know throughout the presentation if the information I'm giving you is helpful. So my first request is easy. I'd just like to know where you're watching from and what you do in the craft beer industry, if you want to share that right in the chat. And we have John, and he is tuning in from Cleveland Beer Week. Awesome, John. How's that going? Any cool beers you've tried this week? Let me know. I am tuning in from Buffalo. I grew up in Rochester, which is about an hour outside of Buffalo. And I've been living in Buffalo for the last 11 years. Love it here. It is definitely home. I'm trying to get my family to also live here because I love it so much. And a huge reason for that is the small businesses here, the craft breweries, the restaurants. That's huge. So if you tune in and catch this, let me know where you're tuning in from. And with that, I'm going to jump right into the presentation. Oh, hi, Scott from Denver, also in marketing. Great to see more marketing people in here. So today, like I said, I'm going to be talking about increasing engagement on your brewery's Facebook and Instagram accounts. If you're a note taker, I say screenshot this slide to look back on because it's a nice little short overview of the presentation. So most of you already know that social media is a must for craft beer companies. I mean, we're here on social media today to talk about it. But the thing is, being active on social media isn't enough. You really want to have that engaged online audience. And there's many reasons for that, one of which is that the algorithms care about engagement, and they look to that when they're prioritizing posts. Oops. And if your posts have more engagement on Facebook and Instagram, the algorithm's going to show them to more people. So this presentation is all about that engagement piece. This is for you if you're not seeing a lot of engagement on Facebook and Instagram at all. If you're seeing some, but you want to see more, and if you're seeing a lot, but you want to keep boosting it, keep learning. That's the way to improve. So the reason I'm talking about engagement today is because it's one of the biggest mistakes a lot of businesses, including breweries, make right now on social media. And it has to do with their lack of engagement strategy. And specifically, the issue I'm seeing a lot of is posting and ghosting. This means scheduling those posts ahead of time, which is great, but not checking in when they go out, or posting on the fly and immediately moving on to that next task on your to-do list. And I know it's hard because you're balancing a lot of different things. You're wearing a bunch of different hats, but skipping the engagement piece really is just as bad as skipping the post. So, and that's because posting and ghosting doesn't encourage engagement. It doesn't build that community online. And it tends to be one of the biggest reasons breweries are seeing low engagement. So focusing on engagement really is huge. And in this talk, I'm going to walk through 3 tactics to increase engagement on Facebook and Instagram. The first one is going to be starting conversations. The second, asking for engagement. And the third, using the latest and trending features. And these 3 pieces are going to really help you increase your engagement rate, even if you're not getting engagement on your posts right now. And more importantly, it's helping you build that strong online community and then getting them into the tap room. So like I said, I'll be asking for engagement throughout the presentation. So I want to know, if you're tuning in, who's in charge of your brewery's social media? Is it the owner? Is it the taproom manager? Do you have a social media manager? Do you do it with bartenders? Let me know in the chat. And catching up on some comments here, John says, a lot of wet hot beers and a 10th anniversary. Oh, wow. Very cool. And yep, it's called social media for a reason. Yes, that's actually going to be the next point that I jump into right away. And Scott is a taproom manager and part-time person, part-time marketing, I'm guessing. Cool. All right, let's get into that first way. So 1, starting those conversations. As John said in the comments, social media is social. It's meant to be social. But a lot of breweries are selling more than they're socializing. And this is an issue because if you want to increase engagement, you need to focus on what your followers want. And your followers want to be social, not sold to. So it's actually one of the biggest issues I see when I do a social media audit for a brewery. And it's interesting because a lot of breweries don't even realize how much they're selling until they get that outside perspective. They're like, yeah, we build community all the time. And then when I go through and audit their posts, I'm like, you have way too many direct call to actions to encourage people to engage. You're selling too much. And it's hard when you're close to it because you don't always see it. So I want you, if you're watching now or you're watching later, to take a minute, open up Facebook or Instagram, and take a look at your posts and see if most of them are salesy or if you lean more social, just to give yourself an idea of what I'm talking about here. Hi, Jenna from Portland, also in marketing. Love that all the marketing people are coming together for this. Those are my people. So Yeah, in terms of sales and social, you need to sell sometimes, obviously, because sales pay the bills. But having that balance is really key. Because when you start using social media to start conversations, your followers are so much more likely to engage, and those algorithms are going to reward you for that. So if you're wondering, okay, how do I start a conversation with a stranger on social media from my brewery's account? One of the best and easiest ways to open a conversation on social media is to ask a question. So that means inviting your followers to tell you about their favorite beer on your tap list, release they're excited about for winter, rather than just saying, hey, we have this beer for sale, buy it. Asking them, hey, what do you care about? We want to hear from you, because followers and people just like to share what they like to say, and they like to know other people care about what they have to say. And then once you open that conversation, keep it going. So that means instead of commenting thanks or cheers or just liking it, you want to respond with a longer response, or ask another question. Because the longer you can keep that conversation going, the more likely that other people are going to engage as well. And it's going to give you that boost in the algorithm. Um, and honestly, it's hard to be the first person to comment on a post. So, one of the things that I do and I encourage clients to do is to ask your staff members to start the conversation. You can start the conversation yourself. If you look at an account that I manage, you'll see that I respond personally as Morgan Colhane to get that conversation going, because a lot of people don't want to be the first person. I wouldn't advise commenting as your brewery's account to your brewery, because that's confusing. But if you have a personal account, encourage people to start commenting by being the first one. I actually have a client that has some cool competitions that staff does to boost engagement like that. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but starting those conversations is huge. So the next point is going to be asking for engagement. So the best way to get engagement is to ask. Um, it seems simple, but I think it's something that people forget about. And it's oftentimes the missing piece of the puzzle. If you're posting and waiting and hoping that people will engage, you're going to be waiting a long time. If you want those comments on your Facebook and Instagram posts, you need to give people a reason to engage and make it easy for them to know what to say. Don't overcomplicate it. We've all seen those posts that have like 7 different questions in them and want you to do all these different things, and people just aren't likely to respond to those. You want to keep it simple and think about it this way. Would you comment if it wasn't your account? So there's all sorts of ways to ask questions, which is like tons of possibilities. You can ask a question in a caption of a post. You can ask people to drop an emoji in the comments. You can ask them to tag a friend. You can use stories to do polls and quizzes, and the question stickers. You can put a call to action in your reels that ask people to engage. You can go live and do a Q&A and ask people to engage with you there. It's really about what works for you and what works for your audience. Since there's so many possibilities, that means you can mix it up, experiment, see what works well for you, see what your followers are into. So my question for you is, what's your favorite way to ask people to engage on Facebook and Instagram? If it's one of the ways I mentioned or something I didn't mention, either way, share it in the comments of the chat. Looks like John does a little bit of both, asking for engagement on posts and asking for business 2/3 of the time. So having some balance there, that's good. I definitely like the share an emoji one, just because it's fun. And I think it's easy for people to do. It's an easy ask. And it's one I've seen get really, really a lot of momentum very quickly. So that's fun. That would be one of my favorites personally. The other thing I would say that is helpful is for people to see other people's engagement driven posts. So if you've asked a question and you've seen a lot of engagement on it, share in the comments so people can get ideas. The last thing I want to say about asking for engagement, which is really important, is don't get discouraged if people don't respond every single time you ask for engagement. They're not going to. Not every post will get responses, and that's okay because you're training your audience to want to engage and you're learning what types of asks work best for them. So if no one engages, don't take it as a loss, take it as an opportunity to learn and look at that data and see, okay, my followers are interested in these kinds of asks. They don't care about these kinds of asks. And you can kind of do some like testing there to figure out what's really working well and what's not. And if you're not already tracking this type of thing, I recommend doing that ASAP because it's one of the best ways to refine your strategy. Yes, John said he likes asking people's opinion on Instagram posts, stories, and reels, and asking for a photo on the Facebook comments. Yes, I love that one. There was a great one that Amy did for Clarksburg Cider that was asking for dog pictures that I really liked. Asking for those photos, people get excited about that. A client I work with, we encourage them to share their Bills photos because the Bills are big in Buffalo. Yes, I'm sad about yesterday. So is all of Buffalo. But generally, the Bills in Buffalo are huge, and whatever that is in your city, getting people engaging about that is a great way to give you a boost. So the next way is using latest and trending features. So social media in general is always changing. Today I'm talking specifically about Facebook and Instagram. I can't control when they change. You can't control when they change. But you can control how you react when they do. And I encourage you, when Instagram and Facebook make changes, to take a second and do some research, figure out what that change means for your brewery's social media and how you want to react. Get a game plan. You don't have to be the first one to share a reel to reap the benefits of sharing reels or anything like that. Just take some time, get with your team, brainstorm some ideas, get a plan, and get involved in that latest trend. If you want to see more engagement on your content, staying up to date on these sorts of things and paying attention to what's trending is super important. Honestly, because Facebook and Instagram is favoring those accounts who use their new features and their trending ones. And also people are looking for what's new and trending on your account. So I'm going to talk through some examples. The first one is Reels. And I want to say, first of all, if you're not posting them yet, it's time to start posting them, because right now Reels are the best way to grow your Instagram following. They're also available on Facebook now. Video content overall is just really huge right now on social media. Instagram's favoring Reels, and social media users are looking for Reels. But I've noticed when I talk to breweries about Reels, a lot of them are really overwhelmed by the idea of creating them. They're like, I don't have time for this. I don't know how to do this. And it's a lot. And I get that. But here's the thing about Reels is they don't have to be perfect. And I'll be completely honest, I struggled with that at first because I'm a perfectionist. But you need to just start creating them, and learning from what you create. So focus less on perfect and more on having key elements. Because when your reels have the right elements, they're going to reach more people. Let's see. So the 5 key elements that I recommend including for breweries are trending songs and sounds, those creative tools like the text feature, effects, stuff like that, relevant hashtags. You want to do quality over quantity here. A clear call to action. Since we're talking about engagement, adding those engagement call to actions is a great place in Reels. And lastly, your personality, have some fun. Make it you, make it authentic. I wrote a whole blog on how to create Reels people want to watch. So if you want a link to that, let me know in the chat and I'll share that. And before I move on, just want to talk to you guys. Are you guys sharing Reels yet? If yes, why? If not, why? Let me know. And quick, I'm going to add that blog link. So John asked, what do you think about giving the client the idea and framework for a reel, but asking their employees to record the video, especially younger employees? So I think it's great to give clients framework and best practices for something like Reels, and that's something that I do with our clients now. And I'm definitely for sharing the knowledge and training the people and having the employees execute it, because your brewery in Miami, Florida doesn't want to see my face in the reel. They want to see your bartender. They want to see your taproom manager. They want to see the people they recognize. So once you have that, like, here's how we create a good reel, what we need to look for, how we structure it, you can let your team run with it. And so I'm definitely big on giving the training ahead of time, but letting the team execute it. That kind of goes back to, you know, your beer and you know your people. Ask someone with social media expertise to get you pointed in the right direction. So the next example I want to talk about is stories. And the reason I want to talk about that is because stories aren't new, but they have some different trending things that come and go. And they're a great way to increase engagement. And also, I remember when they came out, no one wanted to do stories. Everyone was not into it. And now they've really been around and they're really important. So if you're feeling that way about reels, think back to stories. In terms of stories and engagement, you want to pay attention to what's new and trending feature-wise on stories. And a really good example that's not new but is trending is polls. So they're not new, they've been around since 2017, but recently they've become a popular way to increase engagement. To take that step further and ask someone what they think, to figure out like what they're interested in. And they kind of take off when you have a good like this or that poll or a quiz. It's one of the best ways to increase engagement on your stories right now. People like to share their opinions. And keep in mind that this is what I'm seeing generally, and you're going to want to track your data on your stories and see if adding polls to the mix is an engagement boosting method for you. And again, if you're not tracking that data, it's really important because that's how you can see what's working and what's not. Are you guys using polls in your stories yet? Let me know. All right, so starting conversations, asking for engagement, staying up to date on those trends are all really important. But if you're like, yeah, Morgan, engagement's cool, but what about sales? That's a super fair question. So I want to kind of come full circle on why engagement matters in a monetary way for you. So increasing your engagement on social media can benefit your brewery in so many ways. And when your engagement increases, more people start seeing your content. And this leads to attracting more and more people to your brewery online. And then as you build that online community, you're increasing the number of opportunities to get people in your tap room. You want to keep this online community engaged because an engaged community is much more likely to take action. Whether that action is sharing your post with their friends or coming into the tap room or buying merch for the holidays. They're more likely to do that once they're engaged and invested in who you and your brewery are online. Every brewery is going to be a little bit different. So having a strategy that's customized to your brewery and your audience is the quickest way to convert engaged online followers into taproom customers. So that means make money from social media, and that's why you should care about engagement. This strategy is something that you and your team can create on your own, or it's something that you can have an expert help you get started, kind of like building that framework to set you in the right direction. Either way you do it, once you have a solid engagement strategy, you'll be able to keep engaging and converting people again and again. So it's not just this one and done, great post, lots of comments thing. You really want it to have that snowball effect because it can be really powerful. That being said, helping breweries and craft beer companies convert their followers into customers is my specialty. So if that's something you want to know more about, I do have a system that I use that's customized to help breweries with their specific goals. You can reach out to me about that if you want to know more. But in the meantime, what I want you to focus on is implementing those 3 tactics I shared, which are starting those conversations, asking for engagement, using those latest and trending features, because engagement really is the first key step to attract more people to your brewery online. And then from there, you're just focused on turning them into customers. Now I'm going to check the chat again. And then I want to open it up to questions. So I do this all day, every day. And I would love to know what you guys want to know about engagement. So if you're tuning in live, share a question, something you maybe want to know about engagement. Let me know. So I'm not seeing any questions yet. So I just want to talk about some questions that I commonly hear from people. I think that there is definitely a sense of like, I need to be doing this, this, and this all the time. And you do want to be active, but if you're struggling to just start posting, I do encourage you to start posting and seeing what's working, adjusting that strategy. You don't have to post a million times a day to start getting engagement. You're really better off thinking about those posts and making them purposeful, making them something your audience wants to know, than posting every hour. You want to really just get something out there to start. Okay, so we do have some questions, I see. John said, how do you navigate engagements around national controversy? Okay, yeah. How should a brewery engage on social media in turbulent times in the country and still be genuine and not tone deaf? That's huge. I mean, in the past, especially this year and last, I think that that's you really need to be authentic to your brewery. And I always encourage clients to take a minute before you post and talk to the rest of your team. Talk to the people that make your brewery who you are and come up with a response together. If that means skipping posting because you're not sure what you want to say or it feels not right or tone deaf, I say pause. I think that posting just to get something out there that's not really relevant to what's going on around in the world is a waste of your time. And like John said, will appear tone deaf. So taking that time, waiting, and deciding what you want to say, that I'm like definitely an advocate for. Scott. So challenging to set objective goals and objectives for social. Appreciate your insights for sure. Sure. Did you have a question, or is that something that you are having trouble with? I think it's definitely important to set goals for social media. Different posts should have different goals, in my opinion. That's actually something that I do with each post. I really think about what is this accomplishing, and the goal can be selling something. The goal can be increasing event ticket sales. The goal can be to entertain your followers. The goal can be to share your stance on an issue that's important to you. Sharing that behind the scenes look at the brewery. There's a lot of different reasons for posts. Oh, okay. So circling back to Scott, engagement, likes, comments, mentions. Which metrics have you found move the needle the most? That's a good question. So I would say that comments are really important if I'm going to pick one across the board. Likes are cool, comments are better, because comments are starting that conversation and encouraging more people to be involved. Mentions are great if we're talking about Instagram stories, because that's going to extend your reach. If we're talking reels, you're going to be looking at those views over the likes, because that's telling you how many people you're reaching. So I think with the metrics, you just got to figure out what your goal is. So if your goal is to engage your current audience more, focus on how you can get those comments. If your goal is to reach more people in a certain area, then you're going to want to focus on the metrics that go with that. I hope that kind of makes sense. John, what do you think about breweries reposting the same graphics, trivia night, every week? Okay. Yeah, I have some feelings about graphics. If you've ever heard myself or Amy talk about that topic, I don't think that Instagram is meant for graphics like that. In terms of, if we're talking about a feed post, it's not the most engaging thing. To me, as a user, that looks like an advertisement. I definitely encourage having a photo first that draws people in, and then swiping to that information. So if it's trivia night, a good looking beer photo with some food that's on special, have that be first, swipe to the trivia. That can be the same graphic. That's going to do better for you engagement wise than the same graphic every week that's text heavy. I think that second photo can be the same. I think the first photo should be different. Does that make sense, John? I also think that getting more creative with that promotion, sharing it to your story, adding a poll like I talked about, especially if it's something like trivia, like add some trivia questions in that story. Get people engaging, get people interested, switch up that caption. There's many different ways you can post about the same thing and drive in different people. And another great way is to get some user-generated content in there. If you have people who are taking pictures at your events, whatever they are, and they're tagging you, sharing those is huge. If it's a really good photo or video that you feel like goes with your brand, adding that to your own content rotation and crediting that person is a great way to increase engagement there. So I have a couple minutes left. If anyone has any other questions, throw them in. I bought this beer for the game, and I have one left, and I'm gonna drink it in sadness. But no, it's great to live in Buffalo right now, and it's was a tough game, but we are still doing really well. So let's see. Circling back to John. I see people who have multiple photo layouts who do it on every post. I think it turns people off. I don't think I understand the question. Can you explain a little more? Yep, gotta represent Young Lion. They're a nice little distance in between my home now and my home growing up, and a woman-owned brewery. Yeah, John, why don't you shoot me a message and I can give you an answer on that. We're Facebook friends. So, speaking of Facebook friends, the last portion that I wanted to touch on before signing off is if you have more questions, I have a group. It's called Customers on Draft because who doesn't want customers on draft? And if you like learning about social media, this group is free. It's specifically for people in the craft beer industry who want to know more about social media marketing. It's much smaller than craft beer professionals, but I like to think very engaged and a solid community, and have been able to build that with help from people like Andrew at Craft Beer Professionals and other craft beer groups. And it's a place where you can connect with people who do what you do, who deal with the same struggles, the same challenges, people who get what creating social media for a brewery is like. It's called Customers on Draft. I'll add a link for anyone who wants to join. And last but not least, I want to thank Andrew for organizing this super valuable virtual conference. I'm always impressed ever since I have joined this group. And if you have any questions for me that you didn't want to ask in this presentation, or if you're catching it not live and later because you're busy, add me on Facebook or send me an email. I'm Morgan at contentondraft.com. It was great chatting with you guys. Appreciate all the questions. Yes, John, shoot me a screenshot. I'm a visual person, so that will be helpful. And cheers, guys.